I'm really excited to kick off this new series of interviews with entrepreneurs. I think it's going to help you think about how you might want to get started with your own venture. And to kick things off, we have Aleksandra Medina, who's an NYU alum and the co-founder of this organization called Frich. So we're going to hear more starting now. Hi, Aleksandra. Thanks for coming and joining us.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
All right. So you and I have connected before. I've had you come into class. We've had a project with Frich in NYU Undergraduate College. Of course, Frich has been on campus as well, engaging with students. But for a lot of folks that are watching, they're probably not familiar with Frich and they're not familiar with you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and about Frich?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I think this is a great idea, so I'm excited to see who else is going to come and join the series after me. But yeah, I'm Aleksandra. I'm one of the co-founders of Frich. My job is everything to do with the product. So my job is to make sure that the product works, people like it, which is why I spend so much of my time engaging with our customer, which is university students. So that's why you find me here.
Well, I think we want to know what Frich is and what it
Right.
stands for, because not everybody knows that too.
Yeah, we love cheesy puns at Frich. So Frich stands for F and Rich. It is a finance app, so that's kind of where the name comes from. We've obviously gone through many, many iterations, and we can talk about them either in class or here. But as it is right now, Frich's goal is to connect smaller financial institutions to our target user, which is the Gen Z college student. And the whole thing about us is that we believe, as founders of the company, that everyone should be confident financially and should be free to have these conversations. And all of the problems that arise with young people and their finances is because we're afraid and ashamed to talk about money. So the whole thing about Frich is you can get effing rich if you talk about money honestly and share these insights with your peers.
All right, so this morning I got a cup of coffee. I always get a cup of cappuccino, and the barista turns the swivel thing around, and you have this question of like, how much do you want to tip? And it auto fills for like 20%. And you recently had this as a question on Frich. And so what were the results? And tell me more about this question.
So one of our main features is that we ask a question of the day. Very self-explanatory. Every single day on the app, there's a question. One of the questions that we picked, like recently, was, do you tip for coffee? Because just like you, I hate being confronted with that iPad. Coffee's already too expensive. And that is something that I've already been talking with my friends about. Like, it's something that people kind of like silently chat about. And over the weekend, we posted like an Instagram post about it, and it went like absolutely wild. There's like 500,000 people like commenting in the comments like, oh my god, how dare they ask me for a tip? And the other person's like, well, no, you should tip everyone. And like people are like arguing, and I'm just like sitting there, yes, community engagement, yes. But yeah, the breakdown is most people don't tip.
So how does that work? How does that help you at Frich? How do you guys make money? What's the business model? How does this startup work?
The biggest idea behind Frich was that when most fintechs think about the Gen Z user and think about money, they're like, oh, well, we need to build a neobank, like we need to provide people with all these resources. And our main insight was that just people need a conversation starter. Like, they don't even know where they stand financially. They don't know if they even have a problem or if they even need a solution. And you can't just push the solution onto a customer if they don't realize they need a solution, that they have a problem. So our job was to start that conversation and find a creative way to have people have these conversations. So that's where the question of the day was born from. And we learned quite a lot about our user base. We can start building your user persona. And the whole idea is that we know enough about you to benchmark you with your peers. So we can find people that are similar to you, not just geographically, but based on a lot of other aspects. And we show you insights on how you're doing compared to them. And if you are falling behind, which like obviously mathematically there's always going to be a bottom half, then we can connect you with resources that we think are going to be helpful for you. And we position them in a framework that makes sense for you. So like, let's say you're thinking about internships, or you're thinking about what you're going to be doing this summer, and you realize that through a question of the day that your credit score is too low to be able to rent an apartment in the city to live during your internship. So now we know you have a credit score problem, and we know that an internship and renting an apartment is top of mind for you, so we can help you hit that goal, which is to spend the summer in the city and do your internship with a credit score tool. So when we do connect you with that credit score tool, that's how we make money.
Now, one of the things that I try to focus on in my classroom and the channel is getting people to just start where they are. And so one of the questions that I want to know is how you built this. Like, where did this idea come from? What were some of the approaches you used to build out this app to get to where you are today?
I love getting this question because people love to, like, wherever you go, you read an article, you listen to a podcast, you see a LinkedIn update, you're like, overnight success, oh my god, Forbes 30 under 30, like, whoa, like I just like woke up and I had this brilliant idea. Like, no, like, absolutely.
There was no light bulb moment.
No,
okay,
absolutely. Like, it happens to no one. Like, now that I've been in the more founder kind of ecosystem in New York, or even outside of New York, I see these LinkedIn posts and I see this like, oh my god, it was just like an overnight success, la la la. But I've known this founder for like 3 years. Like, I know it wasn't an overnight success. So everyone is forced to like put this idea out there, and I think it dissuades a lot of people of starting, because they're like, well, I'm not a genius. Like, I didn't like wake up one day thinking like, whoa, I'm gonna like solve world hunger. I'm gonna like make sure no one's ever broke, and like I'm gonna fix credit card debt. Like, that just doesn't happen. Just me and my co-founder, it was COVID. We were sharing this like teeny tiny apartment in Chinatown. We're like, this cannot be it. Like, there has to be a way. And both of us are immigrants. We're not from the US, we're not from New York. And we were just kind of confused. Like, how do people do this in New York? Like, how do you afford your lifestyle? How do you get your dream job? Like, how do you do all of these things? And it's kind of embarrassing to ask these questions to anyone. So, I mean, our first initial hypothesis was that at the time I was, I think, 21, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go out all the time, but I don't have enough money. Like, that was my biggest problem. And we started with this idea that if you share your budgeting goals with your friends can keep you accountable. And then if we all have this like one goal, let's say like we all want to go on the spring break trip, then we can keep each other accountable, and we can just like have this like open commitment to each other, and we'll hit this goal and we'll go on this awesome trip and it's gonna be incredible. That was the starting point. It was basically like Strava but for money.
Okay.
And then the idea just evolved. And we're here.
So you don't need to study finance, tech, or business to start a finance tech business.
No,
absolutely.
Just an insight, really, passion. With time, with like learnings, you'll just learn to trust yourself, and it doesn't really. You'll stand up for yourself. Your track record will show whether or not, like, it doesn't really matter.
One of the things that I focus on is the different methods that entrepreneurs use, and the whole world is abuzz with lean startup. And the idea with lean startup is that we're just going to create an MVP, we're going to test, and we're going to iterate and learn from that. But I think often we kind of neglect talking about effectuation, and where people begin with who they are, who they know, and what they know. And so I'm curious, like, to what extent did you use kind of jump right into lean startup, or did you it sounds like there was a little bit of things arising from your own life?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it all makes sense when you look back and you're like, oh, well, now I can like piece together these things, and I can see how like my past experiences led me to like even thinking about this, or having like the perspective of being like more open to talk about money, more open to like share these struggles. But I mean, I have to give a lot of credit to NYU. When we even started kind of like noodling with this idea, we reached out to the Leslie E Lab and like the whole NYU entrepreneur community. So I definitely don't want to neglect that. And I think they've been incredibly helpful, especially in the starting days. And they were the ones that were like, okay, well, who's this problem for? Like, what is the actual problem? Like, define the actual problem. And at the time, I was still an NYU student, so they were like, okay, well, pretend it's your school assignment. Like, go out and interview every single person you can find and just tell them it's a school assignment, and they'll help you, and you'll get the data, you'll get the insights and information, and you can go from there. Like, I think it's like a little bit of like a 50-50 of like, does the idea originate from you or does the idea originate from a framework? I think you need a little bit of both. And I think like the part of like, oh, it originated from yourself, like it's easier to see that in hindsight.
You know, what motivates you as an entrepreneur? One of the things that I've talked about in class and in videos is this idea of a founder dilemma. And the dilemma is that you either have to be rich or queen. I like to use queen instead of king, but you have to pick. You can't be both. So you either have to sell out to a venture capital that might tag along, drop you out of the founder role, put you in, kind of the co-pilot seat, and try to tag along for that ride to wealth, or you stay and it control Frich, you and your co-founder. It's your baby.
I think this is a very, very good question, and the answer to it changes over time. 100% changes over time. I think it takes a lot of humility to look at, like you said, your baby and be like, am I the person to bring it? Sure, like I maybe brought it to from 0 to 1, like it's here, it exists, but am I the person to then scale it? Like, what's best for the business? What's best for the mission? Do I have the skill set to bring it there? Am I able to learn it as the business grows, or would it be better if I like hand it over to someone else? I think a business cannot, or most businesses cannot succeed if the founder doesn't believe in the mission and vision. Of course, there's brilliant people out there that can make a lot of money on like something they believe is just going to work, but they may not have like an emotional attachment to it. Like the rich part, I'm not rich. There's a very, very small chance that like you will become rich. I think that's a very weak motivator. I think once you've been in like the founder world, if money motivated you, you would quit. Like if I quit right now, I would find a job that pays me.
Why is that?
Because you put everything else before yourself when it's your business. You put money into hiring the best team. You put money into making sure your product is the best. You put in money into growth and development and all these things. Like it feels weird to pay yourself. There's so many better paying jobs than being a founder.
Just become a banker. Go become a consultant, right?
Yeah, become a consultant. Consult me. I'll pay you. Then like the controlling thing, like truth be told, like I don't even have majority control anymore. It's been like 3 years, and with every year, with every funding part, like you lose a little bit of the control, and maybe that's the best. That's because you keep inviting people into a team that can help you build a team.
So what's motivating you?
I believe in the mission.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I believe in the mission. I don't think I could have professionally and personally grown in any position with the speed that I did, or I'm still doing. The people I've met, the opportunities I think it's very, very like heartwarming and rewarding work. I think we've had a lot of interns or employees straight out of college, and like seeing like how we could help them, and then seeing them go on doing great things. It's just kind of great when you're like 26 and you're like, yeah, I can give someone a job. Like that's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And one of the things that I really focus in on when I talk about entrepreneurship is how that journey of exploration and building something in ambiguity and uncertainty helps align you often closer with your purpose. Because you don't have to have a purpose-led business, so to speak, but it's still, if it's not purposeful, you're not likely to keep it going. And that's what I think I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Okay, shifting gears here a little bit. Unfortunately, there's still just under 2% of funding going to women founders. Yeah. And there's some growing body of research that's looking at what women can do as founders to improve their odds. Let's say when they're talking to a VC, when they're trying to raise money, for example. And so one of my good friends from high school actually did some research, but looked at how VCs ask women different questions, whether they're ask different questions for women than they are for men. And so, for example, they might ask women more kind of like what could go wrong questions, Whereas they might ask the man, like, what could go right?
Yeah.
Is that something that you've experienced at all?
I obviously have a co-founder. She does most of the fundraising. So she's kind of like the person. We're like both women. So it's a fully female founded company. So she does like the first round of calls, and then if there's interest, then I join in and I kind of like talk more about the product and like get to like know the team better. But that is very, very much true. And that is like one of the things that was told to us in the beginning is like, if you are being asked that question, just flip it on its face.
Exactly.
Just don't answer a question that's just unfair to be asked, right? Like you're in like venture fundraising, like you are betting, like it's just statistically.
It's all risky, yeah.
Yeah, like it's just statistics. Like 99% of the companies are gonna fail, but only 2% are female founded. So like why are these 2% being asked this question when everyone else is being asked other questions? So just flip the question around, or just again, like kind of going back to my previous point, just prove that you're a good founder.
Yeah.
Just come ready with stats, with just like proof of your track record that you can deliver, you have delivered, you know why it's gonna work out.
Okay, so one thing that I'd like to end on, and I ask anyone that comes to my classroom or I've done a video with, is what advice do you have for folks that are watching or in the audience here that might be on the sidelines? They're not sure whether their idea is good enough, or they want to go and find an idea, they're working on something. What advice would you give them now that you're a founder and kind of gone through that experience?
If you're on the sidelines, I would say, like, say it out loud. Just say it to someone and like just watch
Make
their
it real.
face.
Okay.
Yeah, just like say it out loud. I think I say the same thing always when like someone is like, oh, like I want to run a marathon, whatever. I'm like, go out, tell every single one of your friends that you're gonna run a marathon. You're gonna be too embarrassed to not do it. So like the same with an idea. If you have an idea, just say, tell that idea, tell it to your professor, tell it to like someone who works at Leslie E-Lab, say it to like anyone who's your target customer and just see their face. Like, is it a good idea? Like you can be noodling it inside your brain for like years, decades, forever, for like so long. Just get it out there. People will tell you if it sucks.
All right, that's great advice. Thank you so much. This has been a great pleasure to have you. Look forward to connecting with you again soon.